Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Bill. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Well, I left my water bottle at a client's office a week ago. So for
Okay.
a week, I've been drinking out of not my regular water bottle. It's less than ideal.
I'll say that sounds like it's a big deal.
Yeah. I'm a I'm a keeper kind of person. I like my one thing and then I hold on to it and I use it until it explodes, gives up, dies, or I lose it. So having my water bottle, preferred water bottle in
Mm-hmm.
Hearst, which is like a good 25 minutes away without any traffic.
Right.
Less than ideal.
It's a pebble in the shoe.
Pebble in the shoe for sure. Yeah, it's just enough, right?
So
Because this
did
one is smaller. I got to fill it up more often.
uh,
Just little bitty things. It squeaks every time I open it. Ah, not a fan.
so you haven't recovered it yet, then? It sounds like.
I have. It was so funny. I think that was Friday. I went somewhere. Where did I go? Oh, on Thursday we went to this thing out in Dallas, and it was a string quartet, and they played a bunch of like sci-fi and fantasy themes, right? So they played like Lord of the Rings and all this very cool stuff. And so we
Cool.
drove past Hearst, and I had a moment of being like, we can just detour. We can just
Yeah.
stop right by this office. But it was like 4:45. I didn't know if Sean was still going to be there because that's whose office I left it at.
Okay.
And I was just like, it'll be okay. So I almost got it on Thursday, but then I didn't. So
So you have a meeting planned for recovering it? Like
not
next time
yet.
you're gonna be up there?
I might just have to go make a special trip and go get it.
Oh, so no, you don't.
Yeah, no. Like the dangers of being remote is you might go to an office and not go back for months at a time.
That's true. That is very true. Especially how remote, depending on how remote you are. So,
That's true. With it being that far away, I should maybe just go buy a new one.
well, and we joke, but like you really don't like make a point of going out once a week or anything. You're like, oh, there's a client I
No,
have to need to go out. Okay, I'm fine. But otherwise, it's like, here I am. Here's my Zoom
man.
link.
You know
Right?
what's so crazy is okay. So Thursday night we had this thing out in Dallas. It was out by Love Field, and it was cool. It was very very cool. It was in this abandoned or like airplane museum kind of thing. So there's stuff like there's airplanes hanging from the ceiling. It's rad. It's
Good gig
fantastic.
they got going, by the way.
Yeah.
They go
Um,
all do that stuff. That's awesome.
and then okay, so let's see. So Friday night, what happened on Friday night? Uh, I think maybe we did nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we did anything on Friday night. Saturday, I went and met a friend of mine actually from middle school because we were really good friends in middle school because he lived in the neighborhood and he was new in middle school. I was new in middle school, and his name's James Grogan. He runs works for like a SaaS company, and they do some very cool stuff. There it is. The day can start. The loud Civic has left for the day. Every day is a qualifier. Um, it's so loud.
Yes, you were saying.
Okay. So where was I? Oh, so Saturday I met up with him, and that was awesome because we were all kind of talking about like how did we split apart? And it was just he was a jock and I was a band nerd, and so there wasn't any kind of falling out or anything. It was just we just kind of stopped hanging out, and it was awesome. I haven't seen the guy in 25 years or something like that. So we talked about what his work is, what I'm working on, and kids, and that was awesome. And then Sunday, my brother's in town because he's talking about trying to move back here from Seattle. He's just kind of over it.
Ah,
And so yesterday was a lot of driving because he's staying at his dad's house, which is like far out, far out. It's 30 minutes west of me, kind of thing, right?
like
So it's
Weatherford.
way out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like far out Springtown, like way
Got it,
out
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And then my mom lives in South Fort Worth. So
Yeah.
I think all together yesterday, I think I drove about 3 hours, just like
You
going
touched
out to pick him
like
up.
3/4 of the Metroplex, feels like.
Yeah, I've driven a lot this past week. I've had lots of social interaction. This weekend was not the reclusive John gaming, recharging the battery. So this week is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, good morning, Dylan and Michelle.
Good morning, Dylan. Can we talk about the thing? We won't say anything about it unless you say we can, but let us know. How was your weekend?
It was not that drivey.
That's a good thing.
Yes, it is. It is because I had one of those the weekend before, so
Yeah,
I get my week off.
You have one every time you go out to the ranch, I think.
Oh, for sure, but like at least there's something different about one linear line where you're headed to a spot and you drive an hour and 45 versus I went 5 places.
Yeah,
and they each took 46 minutes. That's way different.
Way different.
Yeah. That's a human psychology conversation right there. Just about the beating of 5 46-minute drives versus 2 hour-and-a-half drives.
Yeah. Do you take the side route with stopping at every light, or do you get on the highway and sit in the traffic? Some people just want to mindlessly sit on the highway. Other people want a little bit more control, even though there's more stops and starts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Personal preference.
For sure. It's all about level of traffic that you can handle and want to handle even certain days. Because certain days, I'm both. Just depends on the day. Certain days I just want to sit and cruise. Other days I'm like, I'm not sitting in this. I'm going around.
Yes, still in the job offer thing. I didn't want to give too much context about it.
About your pipe tampering. Although I would probably talk about that too. Let's be honest.
So you didn't have a lot of driving. So what did you do?
So I did actually have a pretty relaxing weekend. I did a lot of deep cleaning, actually, is what I did this weekend.
Really? Okay.
Cleaned out some storage, cleaned out some closets. Whatever the opposite of spring cleaning is.
Fall cleaning?
Fall back foraging. How about that?
So I have a question for you about that stuff. Is it ever harder for you to get excited not excited, but motivated to go do that stuff because you spend your week motivating yourself to show up in a big way for work?
No, but I'm a busybody. So like my body wants to continuously do things. So like if I'm sitting down, there's got to be something pretty good to distract me, like a video game I'm involved in, or a movie I really want to see, or a series I'm caught up in. And there's not always that stuff around. But no, I don't have any problem going. Yeah, I mean, the answer is no. I just don't. I like to move around. I like to do things, and so now, I mean, if it's disgusting or something, like if I got when I cleaned out storage, I was scared because I didn't know if it was going to be gross, right? Because I went to one of these storage places, but it was just a normal storage experience, meaning half the boxes were crushed because when you set boxes on each other, for
you stack them too high. Years, I only need the 8x10.
Yeah,
not really. You probably need the 16 by 12, but
right, which is why the price goes extremely up. At that
extremely
one spot.
up. Yeah.
Like, for $9, you can have all this, or for $94, you can have the next one up.
But the first month is only $1.
Yeah,
the first month's only $1. It's okay. So Dylan has been looking for a suitable sales role for a while, right? Yes. And so Dylan has gone through some training and coaching, investing in himself to build out a skill set, and after that has worked for some different people, right? It's hard to find really strong people to work with in small business because they're small, so it's hard. They don't have everything all built in there and stuff like that. So he's had some bumps and bruises along the way, and now he's trying to find a role that is much more aligned with his time zone because he lives in South Africa, but he also wants to work in a good environment with good enablement and good leadership, and he's found it, which is huge because it's been it's been kind of it's been kind of a struggle for him to find a role, that kind of makes sense for him. So congratulations, man.
I did not know that. I must have missed that over the weekend or something because
he just posted about it this morning.
Oh, okay. That's fine. That explains it. Dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel like I didn't talk to Dylan as much as you do, and he's been struggling through this, man. He's on the grind for that position. So yeah, we'll cross our fingers and
It's one of those things to where when you're caught in that thing and you get turned down for a role, it's
Yeah,
demoralizing,
it is.
But when you can zoom out and look at it, they're telling you something a lot of times, right?
Yes,
Like, we want someone with more experience. Cool. They're not gonna train you. It's gonna be a nightmare.
yes,
Do you really want to sell yourself into that role, you
right.
know, and then fail spectacularly?
Well, and
No.
it's like you can tell someone, "Hey, you should definitely go deliver pizza and keep looking for a job just so you can eat. I promise you, do that before you just take a job that you feel
Yeah,
about because it pays
agreed.
more." Like, that's that thing that's hard to do sometimes, you know?
Agreed.
So,
Right.
I'm gonna
And
grab a book real quick.
we have the curse of knowledge here. Oh, book
Dude.
day was last week. So we're gonna talk about books here in a minute.
Okay, well, I'm gonna grab it off my table right here.
Do
You talk to Dylan.
it. Okay, fine. I'll talk to Dylan. Hey Dylan. So when do you start? Do you have a start date yet? Even though we're starting onboarding on the 15th. Never mind. You were thoughtful enough to put that into the text that I didn't read all the way. Some questions about how it's going to work for the last search of the year. Okay, nice, man. That's awesome. Okay,
Yep.
he's back, everybody. Cool. I don't got to carry the show anymore.
Thank you so much. Your champion. Okay, so I was just as you were thinking, talking about Dylan, and we were talking about kind of just worrying about jobs and job hunting.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of stuff, right, that you can worry about. There's a Dale Carnegie book that I read when I was young, right? There's more than
Okay.
one, but my friend Jake Melton, you know Jake Melton, right?
I know him. I know him through the interwebs. We've never networked or had a conversation.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so he used to live here, Dallas Fort Worth. He was here for a
Mhm.
while. Went back to Utah with his family. He's a realtor now. He's been crushing it and crushing it, dude. Because he's awesome. He's a fantastic networker. He's really likable, smart guy. One of my best friends. He's not quite Hill level, but like he's in that inner circle of people I've known now for a long time that I really love and respect. You know, that sort of thing.
So he's
So
definitely not small mountain level then.
no, he's more Melton Molehill.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I'm down for that. I'm down for that.
I'm kidding. He's actually one of my very best friends. So anyway, this was it, and I found it again.
Oh, okay. I've not read that book.
So Jake will tell you that Jake Melton.
Yeah.
Jake, I'm not third person.
Don't start talking about yourself in the third person, man. We're gonna have to stop hanging out.
Of anyone coming by and hearing that. Melton will tell you he has Tourette's, and he has overcome it through just kind of the same thing around your list, right? He just over the years has found stuff that has worked for him.
Yeah.
And has kind of beat it really. Like he doesn't really twitch much anymore and stuff like that. But when he does get nervous, that stuff starts coming back and it starts jacking with him, right? And so he's kind of been struggling with the real estate market the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had recommended it for him, and I went, you know what? I was like 16 when I read this book. I should just pick it back up and read it again. And one of the things in there that made me think of it is that, and we talk about this all the time, is you don't, when you screw something up or when you miss an opportunity or like any of those things kind of fly by you, you know, you've got two choices. You can either sit and think about it, or you can observe it and then pick up what you need and keep moving.
Yeah.
But he's got like a whole bunch of techniques in here on how to do that, because it's easier said than done, right? To say,
For real.
I'm
Yeah.
going to sit down on this. So anyway, I'm just really excited because I'm about halfway through this book again, and I forgot it's one of those books where you're like, duh, but when you read it, you're like, yeah, but it's a good duh.
Yeah. I didn't read any Carnegie for a very long time because for some reason I was just turned off to it, and they were a competitor to the like Sandler, and I was kind of like, okay, I'm a Sandler guy. I'm only gonna read
Yeah,
Sandler books and everything. And then whenever I zoomed out a little bit and realized, like there's other good sales content from other people, Sandler doesn't have it all locked down. I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And man, it's like a Norman Rockwell painting of a sales book. It's so warm and like great, and those stories stick. Like it's a masterful book. Very, very well written. So I will pick that up.
Yeah.
Let me show you what I got.
Yeah. Chicken Soup for the Soul, all his stuff. Okay.
All right, hold on one second. I had to unplug my headphones.
Okay, no worries.
Okay.
Anyway, so Dylan, He said it's also on the book wish list. Michelle, here, I'll push it back up. It's called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. Yeah. So,
Okay. So I have as silly as this is, I'd realized that I had not bought books just for myself in a while, right? And so like I'll go through these periods of not buying bunches of books, and then I'll go on a bit of a tear. So I've gone on a bit of a tear,
same, me too.
but for good reason. Okay, so I got this book. This is from a woman named Laura Templeton, and we met networking. And this is about 30-second. It's called 30-Second Success. The subtitle is "Ditch the Pitch and Start Connecting." She's a huge networker. I got connected to her through Whitlock, and I'm excited to read this book because we had a good conversation. Okay, so the other stuff. So Leadership and Self-Deception is one of my favorite books of all time. Probably my most recommended book for anyone in like a leadership, sales, entrepreneurial kind of role. And I don't like, I consumed it on Audible, right? Because I love audiobooks, but I've never actually owned a hardcover of it. So now I have a hardcover of it, and I'm super, well, I have a paper cover of it, excuse me.
Yeah.
I got same thing here. Getting Naked, Patrick Lencioni, one of the most insightful books I've ever read, and it's not really about selling, but it's really about selling kind of situation. It's amazing. Yep. Lencioni does really good books. Extreme Ownership, The Heartbound, huge book. It's not gonna speak to everybody. I understand that. If this book doesn't speak to you, Leadership and Self-Deception will. It's almost the same book for different audiences with different ways of getting to the same points.
Yep.
Let's see here. The Bible.
Your library.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah. Never Split the Difference. Chris Voss. Amazing book. Dylan's a big fan of this book. This is how we originally connected, because he was talking about this book in an interview that I was doing for a client, and we got connected that way.
On the list.
Spin Selling. I just finished this on Audible, and I'd never read it before. And they were like the first group to really do like scientific method approach to what works in sales. And this book is really specifically about small transactional sales and bigger multidimensional big sales that require relationships and stuff. And it talks about features and benefits work really, really good in small sales. They're less productive in bigger sales. Right. Who knew? So this book does a really good job, and it gets really in the weeds. And so when I was listening to this, I was immediately like, "Ooh, I'm going to need this one," right? Because they're referencing a bunch of figures. There's a bunch of kind of like this and that and back and forth and everything. So I'm excited to have that one. And then, so I'm reading Play Bigger, which is around here somewhere, which is also a new book that I recently got. And so in that book, in the introduction, it talks about a couple of books. So this one here is called Crossing the Chasm, which is about marketing and selling disruptive products to mainstream customers. They talk about that book a lot. And then this one is The Innovator's Dilemma, which is another book that gets talked about a lot in Play Bigger.
Crossing the Chasm, that was the other one?
Yeah, Crossing the Chasm, The Innovator's Dilemma. And there's another book that they talk a lot in there. It's called Positioning, and it's an older book. Yes. So that one is on order. I will get it whenever it comes. And then I was on a networking call recently, and they were talking about this book, the Nikola Tesla Wizard biography. Yeah. And so I picked that one up as well. So
let me know on Wizard. I'm kind of split. Like, I love Tesla.
Oh, have you read it?
No. I've thought about, I've got it on my list of like wish list, like a someday type of wish list. Because this is how nerdy we are, right? I have my book list, and it's my immediate, my when I can afford, my someday, and my maybe.
Yeah.
So 4 tiers. Yeah. So Wizard is on that someday maybe split somewhere. I forget where. Because I love Tesla, but there's a lot of lore around Tesla, you know?
For that's the thing that I'm excited about, right? Is really digging into the lore. I've got this other. I like biographies, but most of them hit a point in the book where you're not. How do I say this the right way? You're not talking about anything fun. You know, you're not talking about the important stuff of this person. You're just kind of like talking about their life, and it's if that's not done well, I get really bored with a biography very quickly, right? Because like I like to read biographies a fair amount, right? I've got the big Alan Turing one on the list down here. I've got I have the Beastie Boys one. I've read like biographies on Tony Hawk and like literally anybody that I can find who I think would be interesting. So
Yeah.
I have one on Tribe Called Quest that I'm going to be reading here pretty soon. So I really like biographies. If
Yeah.
for nothing else, of just seeing the things that they run into that I can then look at in the future for myself, right? Because
Yep.
no matter what you're dealing with, someone has dealt with it in the past, and you can choose to go off in the corner and try to figure it out for yourself, or you can steep yourself in knowledge of others who've experienced very similar situations and
I think it,
save time.
yeah, and I think it also speaks to our love for story, right? Because I watched that Team Redeem. On
Oh
Netflix.
yeah. How was that?
It was good. It was good. It
Yeah,
was not as good as the Jordan one about the
yeah.
bullet.
I think that's hard to beat.
Because how else? Like, how can you beat that one? But
Yeah.
it was good because I never was really a massive Kobe fan. I always appreciated him,
Hmm.
but just every single thing I see about him, kind of after his death, makes me wish I'd paid more attention to him when he was
I agree
active.
with that.
'Cause he's
Yeah.
pretty incredible.
I feel
Um,
the I feel the same way, honestly. That I never really appreciated him whenever he was alive. Everyone was talked about him being a ball hog, and
right,
I'm a
which he
Jordan
was,
fan,
yeah, but
so I'm kind of like, yeah. But
yeah,
now it's like, oh, okay, maybe there is something to this Mamba mentality kind of
yeah.
situation.
That's a book on my someday list. Is that Mamba mentality? But
Hmm.
then the other one I just watched was the Rich Froning, um, uh,
Why does
fittest
that
man on
name sound
earth,
familiar?
fittest man of all time. I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
But he won the CrossFit national CrossFit Games 4 years in a row,
Oh,
and
okay. I
he
have
is
heard about this guy.
insane. He's insane, and I knew about him, but this is like kind of a deep dive more into his personal life and
Hmm.
how he trains. And it turns out, like you do with a lot of biographies, you think you know things, and then you just miss one sort of kind of angle that they don't really talk much about, and then all of a sudden everything lights up. And you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it now, right? And it's that whole. He's actually really smart, and he does his own programming for his own workouts, and he understands biomechanics really well. Oh, surprise! He actually knows what he's doing. He's not just really strong. He's
Yeah.
not just a really hard worker. So it's cool.
Yeah.
I watched that over the weekend. That's
To
what I did.
me, that's the same thing as like the Jordan thing, because if you're really watching the show, the thing that you realize is that he had to shift for that team to become the level that it did, and he's not responsible for that shift. It's the coaching, it's the guidance of Phil Jackson and stuff that really takes them down that path.
Yeah,
And if you don't like if you weren't old enough to be, and none of us were at the time old enough to be that thoughtful and reflective about it, you just see Jordan as the superhero and not part of the team.
right.
And in the first couple of seasons, he was on that team and they weren't doing nothing, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and even especially after his comeback too, he had to
Hmm.
play a different game because he had a different set of teammates. They weren't
Right.
all there, and the league was kind of shifting too, and so he couldn't be that same kind of air thing. So I recently
Oh, ho, ho.
got the comeback Concords.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so with the 4.5 on it.
Oh, ho, ho. Okay.
That's why I call them comeback Concords. So
I like that.
yeah. Anyway,
That patent leather. I remember when those were new,
yeah,
because
me too.
that was like during the time that I was getting really into skating and kind of like skate culture, and I was kind of moving away from like sport culture and all this other stuff. And I just remember seeing the patent leather and being like, "Oh, not a fan, not a
Yeah,
fan at all."
yeah,
But now they're okay.
yeah.
Like I'm used to them now because they've been around for so long.
Right. Well, for me, I have 3 sets of Jordans in my mind from childhood that like those are Air Jordans,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's one of the pairs. Like
Oh
that is,
wow. Okay.
yeah, I have that, and I have the 5s. Most people think of the 5s,
Yeah.
uh, and then the 3s. The 3s, the 5s, and the 11s for me are like the Jordans.
See, for me, it's the threes, the fives, and the sixes.
Really?
Yeah.
You have a pair of 4s that are dope.
Yeah, I have a pair of threes, a pair of four. Do I have a pair of four? Yeah, I have a pair of
Yeah,
fours.
you
I
have
have
the
a pair of
green ones.
fives.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't have. Is that true? Yeah, I don't have a pair of sixes because I'm waiting to get the Gatorades as my sixes, and I've not sold what I need to sell
Okay.
to be able to reward myself with that pair of shoes. So I'm not done it
Gotcha.
yet.
Yeah, same. That's
Yeah,
how mine all come in that fashion too. So yeah,
absolutely.
very cool.
So, okay, let's talk about this on the show. So, no Friday morning shows for the next 7 weeks. So, essentially
Yeah.
between now and the end of the year.
Well, Yeah, I mean, and we should talk about it. What's his name in your chat? Actually, had a good George had a good thought too around live streams and
Yes,
podcasts and stuff
George.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so one of the things that we talk about here is flexibility and change and like adjusting to your days and your weeks based on what your goals are and different things like that. And so, I took the position back in June 30th, and then knowing that I would get to control most of my days, but then you also have clients, right? And then
Yes.
you still work for somebody.
Hmm.
And so HubSpot, we're a HubSpot premium partner. And so one of the initiatives for Q4 was that anyone that was in this position or above has to be certified and know these basic things about HubSpot so that they can work with clients better, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, for 8 weeks, we have mandatory HubSpot training at 8 a.m. Because it's 9 a.m. on the East Coast where they are, 8 a.m. here, that I've got to attend. So that has disrupted our happy little Friday abode.
Yeah.
But that's what
Definitely
you do,
thrown
right?
a wrench in the gears. What'd you say?
I said, but that's what we do is we adjust and,
Yeah.
and keep working around the goals, but adjust to things that come up, consequences or circumstances or different things that kind of pop in. So
Absolutely. And we have people who watch this on the replay because not everybody gets up in the morning. Not everyone has the bandwidth. Some people just have it on and they're driving places, but they're just kind of lurking and taking it in.
right.
So if you're watching this later on, you're watching this on the replay. If we did the show at another time, if we did it like mid-afternoon or later afternoon, would that make you want to come hang out with us live? Is the question. So
yeah, the struggle we have is we like the interaction a lot. Like that's a big part of it for me,
Yeah.
just for you. Like I like having people over in the comments that we're like chatting with.
Agreed. Yeah.
And so the live stream I think is important. I think it's fun. But we also, I mean, we got into this because we wanted to like just share our journey and help people too. And so
Yeah, absolutely.
whatever format helps people do that also is a consideration,
Agreed.
So there's no great answer. It's just how do you put it out in a way that accomplishes both things, ideally.
Agreed. Yeah. So if you're watching the replay, if you were like, you know what, into my workday, I'm just kind of hanging out, looking for content, blah, blah, blah. Let us know. If you're more of a lunch person, if you're more of a mid-morning person, let us know when you like this kind of content, when you would potentially carve out time to participate live, because we're huge fans of Team Replay, but we do like the questions that pop up and, the camaraderie that happens in the chat. So let us know, what does your day look like? When do you meaningfully take time out for content or, hanging out in communities and stuff?
Yeah. And I'm actually going to put a survey up on LinkedIn today. So head over to my LinkedIn page too and vote if you want. But I'm going to try and get some data over there and just see when people consume content, and I would suspect that it's all the time, but like sent down for an extended period of time around a particular type of content. I think most people have patterns. And what's interesting is I don't know if people know necessarily when they consume content, right? Because we're such a consuming society now. So it'll be interesting to see what people say.
Yeah. What happens if no one says anything at all? Do we quit? Do we give up?
All right. Everyone hates a spy.
I knew no one was watching.
Yes. Yes. Michelle and Dylan, you can just come over. We're going to quit the show and you can
exactly.
come over to the house and
yeah. We're just going to talk loudly. It'll be okay. So what do you have this week then? Because we're not going to see each other on Friday. So essentially we're not going to have the Friday morning show until this thing is done, because I like doing the interviews with Jake. That's why we're here together, talk about both sides of the stuff that we're very interested in, sales and marketing. And so, we're probably just not going to run on Fridays for the next 8 weeks. Yeah. So essentially until the end of the year.
I was going to say, then I'm looking at my calendar right now. That means we're right smack in the middle of December or in December, which means not till January. So,
So tune in for our New Year's resolution show, everybody, in January.
In the meantime, we are a Monday morning show.
Yes,
Monday morning for 2022. That's what we're doing. So
So, what do you have this week? Do you have anything on the calendar that is going to slow you down, take you out of it, anything like that?
No, but I would like to say I closed my first deal as the salesperson. Done.
Dude, congratulations.
100% conversion rate. I might quit. That's right.
You're never going to surpass that, right? You're
I
like,
can't get any better. That's right.
what is that movie? Bernie Mac, and he's like Mr. Mr. 1000?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I've never even seen that movie, by the way. I just know that it's a baseball movie with Bernie Mac, which I thought was an odd pairing whenever it came out.
You know it's garbage when there's a comedian. They shouldn't do. When comedian meets a movie, there's a problem, probably.
Do you remember? Okay, this is super interesting, and this only is coming to mind because we're talking about baseball movies. There was a movie with Tom Selleck whenever we were kids, and he's a baseball player.
Baseball.
What?
Mr. Baseball.
Mr. Baseball, yeah. And
I love that movie.
he gets sent over to the
Japan.
the Japanese league, and they've got this one pitch that he can't hit.
The Shuto.
The Shuto. That's right. Yeah, man.
I love that movie.
Okay, so how does that stand up in the paradigm of baseball movies?
Man, I don't know, because that's more of like a nostalgic movie for me. Because I
Fair.
like Tom
Yeah.
Selleck so much. I loved Magnum PI growing up. You
Yeah.
know, like so it's
Quigley
more
Down
about-
Under is a great movie.
Which one?
Quigley Down Under.
Oh yeah. So it's
Yeah.
for me, it's more like I like Tom Selleck. As far as a baseball movie goes, it's pretty good.
What's the best baseball movie? Or okay, sorry, top 3 baseball movies.
Oh come on! Oh, you're killing me. Okay, I know 2 that are in the top 3. Moneyball's in the top 3 for me, and Field of Dreams is in the top 3 for me.
Yeah, okay, I'm with
So
you.
those 2, there's a whole bunch of different ones that could be number 3, just because it depends what you like in the baseball. Because like some people would say Sandlot because
Ooh.
it's just awesome, like
Mhm.
because of the kids, not because of baseball, right?
Yeah,
What's the Robert Redford one?
The Natural.
The Natural is got a really strong case.
Never even seen The Natural.
Major League is amazing. For me, probably Major League. Just once again, nostalgia, star power, fun. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So, yeah. And then The Natural probably number 4. You should definitely watch The Natural for sure. It's
I mean, I'm down to watch it.
because it's a period piece. You know, it's not a necessarily.
It's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't watch baseball either, Dylan. We were at my mom's house last night, and a commercial came on for the Texas Rangers, and my daughter goes, "Who are they?" And I was like, "Oh, Jake would die a little bit right.
I did
right
just
right
now.
now if he was here."
Like I'm on the screen.
And I was like, "Baby, you've been to one of their you've been to a baseball game,
Right.
Because I got tickets. Actually, Hayden Blackburn had some
Oh,
tickets through IdeaWorks, and we had office space there, and so I won the tickets. We took Alice to go. She had a hot dog. It was nosebleed section. She was bored within 3 minutes, so we didn't finish the game. But
And how long ago was that?
oh, she was. I mean, I was working with Jeff, so that was probably 16. You know,
Okay, so she was
almost.
like 6.
Yeah,
5.
I mean, she was like, a kid.
Yeah. Well, that explains it. Yeah.
I'm so surprised to hear you say Moneyball. Like, I would pick Moneyball because I'm a huge nerd and I appreciate what they're doing there. But it's kind of surprising for me to hear you say Moneyball because you're just such a fan of the sport.
Well, I think that tells you how good a job they did because it was about the baseball too. They covered all the like with all the scouts in the room talking about like instincts, and I've been doing this for 40 years, and like there's like that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like there is a just a feeling of knowing when baseball players are good because you've been doing it for so long, and that works across multiple things, right? But it's particularly in sport and baseball, it's such a huge fight that was happening. It was talking about baseball, not just numbers.
Yeah.
And then Brad Pitt killed that role. Like he really just crushed it, I think.
I think the person who gets underrated in that role is Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
He does an amazing job, and I think like up until that point he'd only been in like Seth Rogen movies.
Well, that's pre Jonah Hill, right? Like it's Jonah Hill before he became Jonah Hill, you know. Yeah. So when I was in Boston, check this out.
Did you remember Jonah Hill?
Well played. Let's see here. Recognize that spot?
That's freaking cool, man.
That is where Brad Pitt sat with the Boston Red Sox owner when they tried to pay him all that money.
Yeah.
It is literally, and so in this seat right down here, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually told us, like, there was a girl sitting there, and they were like, how do I stop screen? I can't figure out where the top screen is now.
Oh, the middle one.
Got it. By the way, that's the seat where Brad Pitt sat, and no, you can't take the seat with you because there was like a girl sitting in it. But that was cool, right? That was cool.
That is cool. Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah.
But it's one of those movies because I'm not a baseball fan per se. I'm just watching it for okay, cool. Like I want to hear this kind of thing, And so I'm watching that, and I'm like, oh, of course that makes sense. Who cares about home runs? Just start the process.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Melissa's not a fan, but then again, she's not as big of a nerd as I am. However, Melissa's been closing some deals on her own. Like this is very like we had to upgrade her to a full Zoom account.
Mm-hmm.
1 tier.
Okay.
She's growing up, right?
Yeah.
She's doing calls on her own. She's she's closed a couple of deals, right, for writing and content creation and stuff like that, which is awesome. Nice. And she comes to me after one of these calls and she goes, "Hey, I don't know what to do with this one." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Well, I think it's potentially a good fit, but essentially she deals with something that every consultative salesperson deals with. Like, can I do a good job for this person? Right? Are they really at the place to where I can come in, help this person meaningfully? Right?" And it's fascinating because like she's never been in a situation where she has to sell a bunch of stuff that she doesn't care about. Right? She doesn't have any kind of mental gymnastics that she does to talk herself into the things, offering the widow the credit card because, Casey told me to do so and all this other stuff, that we do over the course of being salespeople. And so she just gets to start from this place of concern about, do they have what I need to do a good job? Are we on the same page of the expectations and everything? And so I'm like, this is the work. I said, okay, cool. And she goes, what do you mean cool? Like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, yeah, you do. Go ask a question. And she goes, what am I going to ask them? And I'm like, that's the hard part. Right. Because how do you ask that question in a way that brings them to the table with the right energy and intent and allow you to feel comfortable?
Right.
And so we talked about it for a while, and I was, okay, what's your real concern? What's your real concern? What's your real concern? What's your real concern? And we got to it, and I was like, cool, ask that as a question, right?
Yeah.
And say, hey, I've got a concern. Can I share it? Sure. Okay. This is my biggest concern. How do we deal with this? Is this something I should be concerned about? And it's so funny because I have zero problem doing this.
Yeah.
Right. Partially because my personality, but partially because I do it a lot and everything. Yeah. And so it's so funny to watch her, try to, okay, am I allowed to ask this question? How do I, it's fascinating, very, very interesting. I'm lucky.
That's interesting territory for a different reason. Because you're coaching your partner to do something.
Yeah.
And that can be dangerous.
Yes, for sure. Like
that's what's interesting to me.
Yeah, that's the part I was going to whenever I was saying that I'm actually pretty lucky, right? Because I was hanging out with my friend from middle school on Saturday, and I was talking about that I get to work with Melissa, and he was like, "Man, he's been with his partner for longer than I've been with Melissa. They have kids that are like 22 and 24 years old. Like the first semester after high school, they were pregnant, right? So his kids are like 22 and 24, which is crazy to think about because mine's 11,
Right.
And he goes, "There's no way that I could work with my wife."
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's the standard answer. That's what most people say. Yeah. But they have these conversations, and she's like, well, I couldn't work with you or work for you. And he goes, well, I wouldn't hire you. Right. So they're both like very aware that it wouldn't work out. And there was a very long period of time that Melissa and I were on that same thing. Right. In certain situations, like we couldn't wait tables together because the way that I think about waiting tables is fundamentally very different than how she thinks about waiting tables. But in this situation, it's been fine.
y'all largely are out of each other's way a lot of times though too, right? I mean, like you're not working
Oh,
on top of
yeah.
each other all day. Yeah.
In everyone's mind, we're like poring over this like battle plan puzzle, like over one table with one light over us, and I think
Yeah.
we should go here. I think we should go
Yeah.
here. I think we should do this. Like
Yeah.
for as much as we work together and we both work from home, I'm
Mm.
in here for a solid, some days 6, some days 12 hours, so just kind of depending upon the day.
Yeah.
And she doesn't even work in here because she can't
Right.
stand the over droning of John's voice and saying the same things over and over and over again.
Right.
So she works in the kitchen, I
Mhm.
work in here, and there are days to where like we'll finish the day and I'm like, man, I haven't even seen you today.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So this has been the coolest part though, because she's like, okay, how do I say this? Okay, strip it all back. What are you fundamentally trying to say? Well, this is what I'm trying to say. Okay, cool. Why can't you just say that?
Yeah.
Well, maybe I can say that. I'm like,
Yeah.
cool. Ask them a question, then
Mhm.
say that. Now, what's the question you should ask? And it's awesome. It's really, really good. But the reason why it's good is because it's known that this is my area of strength, right?
Mm.
The problem with coaching your significant other is because they don't know that you listen to them and they don't think you know what you're talking about for their situation, right? In this situation, I am the coach, right? Like this is what I do all day. So I think it's a little bit easier. Okay, how do I do this? And then take that information. And then the hard part for me is just, are you good? Do you want me to shut up? Because she knows how much I will keep talking to make sure that she gets to the place that she needs to be. So I kind of need to check in. Hey, are you good? You good? You good? Yeah, I'm good. Okay, great. I'm going to shut up then.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be key.
Yeah,
No,
that's the hard part.
It's and the point I am in my own personal growth right now is how do I say less? Like that's my whole focus.
Yeah.
How do I ask a better question so that I'm not feeling this time? Like
Hmm.
every single call, coaching, sales, everything, relationship. How do I
Yeah.
just question better?
Yeah.
Talk less.
Talk less, small more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To use the
That's why you're
Hamilton line.
small is better.
Small is better. Yes. And that's one of the 40, what is it, 48 rules of power that I'm still listening to, which
Yeah.
you are correct. It's very broy, it's very gate crashy, it's very like, I'm curious as to if this was like an early book for him, because it feels very different than like Mastery, which has been
Totally.
totally different book.
Ever would have guessed they're the same person.
Yeah, like very, very different books. And then so I read Mastery, and then I've read Seduction. I don't even know if I finished Seduction or not. I got a little like repetitive, but the 48 Laws of Power is very, very kind of just different. Very different.
I think there's good psychological interest in that book. It's interesting about the point he comes to from the data he gets,
Yeah.
but the way the application for me is just too much.
Well, I think, and you said this, and I was thinking about it ever since you talked about it, because I almost was like, oh, okay, cool. Like Bill says that the book isn't worth it. I'm just going to put it down. Like that's almost to where I was. And then I was like, well, I used the credit. It's been too
Yeah.
long. I can't get the
Have
credit
it.
back.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and finish it.
Yeah, you can get something from any book.
Agreed. Yeah. And I do believe some of the stuff that he says in there, that if you don't know this stuff, you're just enabling it to be used against you.
Yeah.
Right. So
It
if for
has
nothing
allowed
else,
me to recognize it when it's being done to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the people who aren't good at it aren't going to do it well. So it's going to be
Mm.
easier to see just by reading over the text once, to really be able to see all the nuance to it. That's where Mastery comes into place, and that's the whole other book. But yeah, if nothing else, I'm reading the content that other people are reading, which will put me on the same level as them as far
Sure.
as that knowledge goes.
Yeah, especially when you're a reader, it's especially I don't want to say easy, but easier to do that. Just to go through and breeze through some stuff and be like, okay, I read that. Now I know it. When references, I can be like, yes, and there's also another way. Can we talk
For
about
sure.
this?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. He says this and this. Okay, let's talk about this though. Here's a problem that could arise. So
Yeah. And there's a version of that in what I do in sales training, right? Okay, just go have the conversation. But if you want to have improved outcomes in your conversations, there's little things that we can do,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Questions with questions. Don't be too attached, right? Look for the other stuff. Be proactively looking for booby traps and pitfalls and things that are going to waste your time. And because otherwise you're just going to, oh, okay, cool. They said everything was great. And now I can't get a hold of him again. Why can't I get a hold of this person again? Because they told you what you wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to get away.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Little broy, but
Yeah. When you get done, I want to hear your summation. Like kind of like your one thing. I'll be interested to hear what your one thing that you take from it is.
Ooh, that'll be interesting. Yeah, for sure. So I'm reading that. We're doing Play Bigger as the book club inside of the Slack community. I'm also reading this with another guy that I met on Lunch Club. So I think I'm 3 or 4 chapters deep into it.
I think I get my copy tomorrow, so I can't wait.
I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on the first couple of chapters, because we've read a lot of the same stuff, and I'm curious if it sticks out for you the same way that it does for me. But
yeah, I've heard great things about it, so looking forward to it.
Me as well.
Cool. Well, back to the original question, which was what's going on this week, because I had my first sale last week.
Yes.
And I've got my next sales call tomorrow. So different client. So looking for a 2 for 2. I'm going to keep that 1,000 as long as I can, because right now they're feeding me softballs because I'm new in their sales process. So it's realistic for me to think that I can close something tomorrow. And I've watched the tape. I know the angle I want to take. So I'm just thinking about questions. They're going to be good questions.
Yeah.
To get them to step through the door. Because they're a good fit for us. They're a good fit for us.
How do you know that?
Well, I watched the initial sales call with the salesperson.
Okay.
So I've heard their pain points. I've heard their background. I know where they're trying to go. And so now this is when they normally bring the coach in to kind of overcome any sort of fears, objections, and wrap the sale up. So nice. I don't believe in jinxing, Dylan. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not a jinx guy. So
you're not superstitious. You're a little stitious.
I'm a little stitious. I'm not superstitious. See, I actually wear a 13 to like spit in the face of superstition. I have a 13 tattoo. Like the most unlucky number is on my shoulder, bro. Let's go.
I was thinking that same thing, Dylan, of just like don't fixate on like, because like this will be a very quick, interesting lesson, and I think it'll help some other people here. You are encompassing this whole thing, right? Good call. I know their pains and everything else like this, and the win is them getting to say yes. I think that's flawed thinking, right? The perfect outcome.
Win. I said that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, fair, right?
The win is a good conversation.
Yeah, the win is they leave knowing what they need to do next, even if that means not buying from you. That is the win.
Correct. 100%. I agree.
Yeah.
So, and then the only reason I think that we can close it is because they are a good fit for us. We can help them. Can I ask good questions to get them there?
Yes.
That's where I'm trying to get to. And
that's a good frame. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Then I can breathe for the rest of
the day. Well, it's just so easy to start getting fixated on, well, I closed the last deal, I should close this deal. Hold on.
It is.
You just said yourself that these are different people with different pain points and a different team. And so the personalities, the players involved, all these things are going to be shifted a little bit. So,
yes,
it's stay curious.
Legendary.
Yes.
There you go, Dylan.
There we go. Bring it home. Bring it home with a Barney reference.
That's right. But no, you're right. That is a great lesson, and one that we have to remind ourselves of too. Just because we closed one yesterday doesn't mean we're going to close the one today. I was talking with someone recently, and they were talking about like the whole Mike Tyson thing of like, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, and I'm like, well, most of those people are not doing any planning around getting punched in the face, right? So what they're doing is they're showing up and they're like, okay, I'm going to say this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and then I'm going to close the deal. And it's like, there is a way of planning for the chaos of dealing with other people, right? You can stick to the parts that you stick to, right? You can ask your questions, you can do your part of it, but don't go chasing the outcome, right? Mm-hmm. Focus on your process, follow the steps. Yeah.
And so I agree with that line. I love that line because, if you're not prepared, who knows what's going to happen after that first kind of brush with chaos. You're going to react however you react. Right. The other side of it is that if you try to like over script it, you're going to put yourself in the same kind of situation. So
Oh yeah.
So
Tee yourself
like,
up.
frameworks make the dream work, to quote a sweatshirt that I've got hanging in my closet.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, frameworks, not scripts.
Frameworks, not scripts.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. So what about your week? What do you got going on?
I have, let's see, I have a pretty reasonable week so far. Like it could still get crazy. My friend Mike is coming into town tomorrow because there's a poker tournament up in Choctaw that he normally does very, very well in. So he's coming here. He's going to stay with us for one night and then go up and do the poker tournament. So Tuesday afternoon after sales lab is focused on hanging out with him and catching up and everything. Everything else is normal. Yeah, pretty normal.
Normal?
Yeah, like okay. Yeah, normal.
Okay.
Yeah, normal. Like 3 to 5 meetings a day,
Gotcha.
every day of the week, and then I got to do my prospecting, and I got to do some outreach, and I got to do some client project stuff, and yeah, just kind of a regular week. Nothing too crazy or fun, but just like a regular week. Like I think the idea from the outside is that it's always like glamorous, and I was talking to James over dinner, and he was like, man, looks like you're doing a bunch of stuff. And I was like, well, it looks more interesting from the outside than it actually is. And he was just like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, the posting, the content, like that is just talking about the week and the stuff that we do, but it gives people the wrong view that like every day is filled with like fun, interesting puzzles and things for me to like 80% of my week is boring because it's like the same kind of calls and routines and practices and everything
Boring
else like
to
that.
you or boring to other people?
Well, okay, fair point, right? Boring to me, but
I was thinking the
then,
opposite.
well, but then it has to be
You like it, right?
some things I like, some things I do not.
Okay.
Right? There are little things in client projects where I start to feel like the kind of chafing of like, oh, this feels like I'm working for them as opposed to helping them get work done.
Okay.
Which just kind of,
I got you.
like I should, when I feel that, it's like, okay, where am I lagging in my own stuff that I'm feeling this over here? So coaching, helping people, sure, absolutely. Doing outreach, doing, getting ghosted on, calls and all the other stuff that happens that's part of being a salesperson. Not a huge fan of that stuff,
Right.
but it's part of the job.
Gotcha.
Cool.
I
cultivate indifference around those things.
Yes. And then the content is a whole nother.
Yeah. The content is, I'm not, it was funny because the way that he said it was like, ooh, am I doing a bad job of, showing a clear view of what this is like? I don't think that I am, but it's something to be thoughtful about, yeah. It's like, I think you just have to ask yourself those questions on a semi-regular basis. Like, am I showing the work or am I bragging? Am I helping other people?
Yeah.
Or am I
You mean
bragging?
that stuff itself? Yeah. I got you. I thought you meant the act of posting the content as often as you did, because that seems glamorous to some people as well. They're like, oh, you're like posting all the time. You're busy, man. You're doing the thing, versus you're talking about the content itself. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
show versus tell.
Yeah, and that is the other part of it. Oh my God, I see you're like, how do you do that stuff? And it's like, well, you see it when you log in. It has no reflection on when I'm actually writing that stuff and posting and all the other stuff that happens to it, right? Like that is the greatness of social media, is that you get to ingest it whenever you want. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm writing that stuff as you're refreshing your feed and stuff. So
it's also the beauty of it, though, is because they think you're always active. They think it's a subconscious thing that when they log on and they start the feed, even though logically they know you're not there writing it, all of a sudden you're there in their mind. So it's like, oh, this person is alive and present and doing this currently, so I should listen to them probably.
Yeah.
Or I hate that stuff. I'm never talking to them again.
Yes.
Depending on what you read.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. It's very interesting. So I was talking with a team on Friday about just like creating content, and they're like, well, they don't want us talking about IP. I'm like, cool. Don't talk about IP. Talk about your journey. Talk about what you've learned along the way and stuff like that. That's not divulging anything that's like a trade secret or anything. It's just your story, and it builds your brand, because you might not be here for forever, And they were like, so just talk about what I've been doing. And I'm like, all my content is written from a slant of, I'm trying to help myself 3 to 5 years ago.
Yep.
And that's it. That's who I'm writing for.
Me too.
So
I'm currently writing at least once a week for Impact Plus, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm coaching 3 years ago, Jake.
Yeah. And one thing that's happened is, because we do the show here, right, and it goes live on LinkedIn, I've been really lacking on LinkedIn content, right? I'm still doing a lot on Facebook, and, kind of figuring out a groove on Twitter. And we have a new format for our TikTok videos and stuff like that. But I've been kind of lacking as far as just creating content specifically for LinkedIn here recently, which is just interesting.
Same, 100%.
Yeah. And I got a new breakdown of what makes the algorithm work, right? And so I've been kind of poring over that over the weekend to kind of look at like what people in the know are saying, right? Polls are down, photos are up, all this other stuff.
It's constant, man.
Constantly changing.
Yeah. You got to have you do have to consume, because you have to know that stuff.
Yep. If you do not consume, you will not create well. Right. And if you're not going to consume, you need to hire someone who does consume, so that way they can filter your stuff. So that way you have a chance of being relevant on the platform.
Oh, yeah. And I haven't been doing much of that either. I haven't been doing much consuming on LinkedIn. I've been so heads down with the stuff. I'm to the point now in the position where I'm comfortable enough that I need to bring my head back up. And I should have probably never just the show helped me not disappear.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
But now it's time to get back and actually start writing. Doing things. So
absolutely.
Cool, man.
Cool.
Well, what's the theme then? What for this week, if you had to tell John Saturday what he should have accomplished, what should John make sure and accomplish this week?
That's a really good question. I need to be a little bit more heads down in the morning.
Okay.
Right? Because I find myself, there's a weird thing, right? And I was talking about this with Melissa the other day, right? It used to be easy for me to go get work done because I was the one doing all the work, right? So it's like, okay, cool. Like I got a couple of hours. Cool. What am I going to work on? Now, so much of my work is kind of dependent upon other people to have their stuff done first, right? So sometimes my work is tasking other people, hey, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And so like I'll have these periods where I'm like, great, I've got like 3 hours. Like let's go dive into something deep. And everything that's top of mind for me is a task for someone else that I need to go get them to do. Right.
So you need to write yourself new work patterns, sounds like.
Huh?
You need to write yourself some new work patterns.
Potentially.
It's not the same work that you've always been doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to go find out what that new work is based on your new position.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the frustration that I'm in right now, is because like when something isn't done, like it's my fault because like I've not tasked the right people or I've not been on it the right way and stuff like that. But it's frustrating because I'll be in all these meetings, meeting. And then I'm like, okay, great. Like I can finally get some work done. Wait, I got to figure out how I'm going to task this to like 7 people. Like, right. And then it's, well, I'll do that later. I'm going to wait. And then I'll kind of procrastinate and put it off and stuff like that. And so then it all just kind of pushes back. So I need to be a little bit more thoughtful around those kind of things.
So I just got Tiny Habits because I actually have never read that.
I never heard of it.
It's a habits book, right? Obviously, Tiny Habits. And I did a workshop this past week when my friend just got, certified or whatever to do workshops and whatnot. And I liked it because there's another book that talks about micro habits. I forget what it is.
Isn't that the James Clear thing? He talks about micro habits, right?
He talks about it for sure, 100%. I mean, there's a massive piece of his book that's around that, right? There's another one that called like micro habits or something, and he mentions it in his book. James does. But point is, this Tiny Habits guy talks about that there's a myth that you don't need 7 days, 11 days, 21 days, 61 days to develop a habit. Yeah. You can literally develop a habit after 2 or 3 repetitions if you attach the correct emotion to it.
Agreed.
Or whatever. And so, but he says he does the thing that so many other people I've talked about is you have to step backwards and create something really, really small. So in this case, as I'm like sitting here hearing you talk about it, like to me, the micro tiny little thing that you need to solve first is what would new look like? Like what's if you're in that spot and you're like, I need to go assign these things, what habit has not been built around that activity because it hasn't been your past activity. And so it's not like go solve how to do all of this. It's what am I missing? Like one step back to like,
Yeah. I think I'm stuck around the idea that most of my like intake is for my own tasks. Right. And so whenever I have a big list built up of things that I need to go do, it historically it's been things that I needed to go do.
right.
Right. So I think that what I need to do is have probably like a daily tasking time block. Right. So that way each day I'm like looking at the list and I'm kind of like, okay, what do I need from this person? What do I need from that person? What do I need on this project and stuff like that? And kind of build in like a time block each day for that. So that way at a minimum, I'm tasking people, right? Because like there were some weeks where like I'll get to like Thursday and the stuff I planned to task, right, and give to people on like Monday, but I was just swamped in meetings and everything else like that. So, having a set aside task time might help. What are you laughing at?
Well, the fact that you and I are always like our solve to like 84% of all our problems are put it in time block. We're like,
yeah, it's kind of like being in the military when like the universal answer is just drink water, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my arm's broken. Hey, just drink more water, soldier, and drive on. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just put that thing in a time block.
Yeah, it'll get done. It's magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's true though. Like it works a lot of times. That's why I'm laughing because it's actually a legit way to handle it. But I love that because then you can check up on past tasks from yesterday and then add new tasks if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah, and then I need to probably build like a spreadsheet essentially. Ooh, exciting, about when I give these tasks out, when they're going to be due, and everything else like that. And then, I mean, essentially at that point, you're in a project management system.
I was gonna say, aren't you probably already in one of those somewhere?
Yeah, like we use ClickUp, but for like I don't have like a block on ClickUp. I appreciate ClickUp, but for what I'm trying to do, it kind of feels not that useful. So, I know that's head trash. That's limiting belief. It's not actually true.
Yeah,
Just gonna put that out there.
So,
but yeah, I need to figure out a different way to look at ClickUp.
Yeah, you just don't have a template or a frame that you like yet inside of ClickUp.
Agreed. Yeah,
because once you find that, like, oh, this works fine.
Yeah, and we built it as like a wiring schematic, really. So it's more about pulling everything out of my head and having it in one kind of central repository, because a lot of our projects are not all that recurring, right? So there's not this kind of people come in and they get the same exact thing, so it's easy to kind of automate and connect and do all that stuff, right? A lot of our projects are very unique and one-off, and how are we going to figure this thing out, and all that other stuff. And then I get bored and I don't want to do any more of that stuff. So.
Yes, that's why we've like over the years, you and I have talked about you getting an executive system of some sort that just sits with you and then like tracks the things that you commit to, and then documents it, and then when it's time to actually make the thing happen, you go, hey, can you go put that in ClickUp?
Yeah, that's essentially yes. That's what I need. Yeah.
Yes.
I need the executive admin. I don't need like the VA who's like, okay, like tell me what to do. Like I need, I essentially need the integrator, because somewhere along the line I became a visionary person.
Yes.
And now it's hard to integrate for myself. It's easy to like integrate for other people. Okay, who needs to own that? When is it going to be done? What's going to get done? Blah blah blah, all that other stuff. But when it comes to my stuff, it's very hard to do that for yourself.
Dude, if you could come up with a executive assistant AI style, that'd be so amazing. They could sit in your Zoom meetings. They could pull out the stuff. They could
Sybil,
they could populate it over. Like
Sybil does a bunch of that, honestly. Like that has been such a game changer, because while I have my daily log, right, where I'm like kind of writing throughout the day about like what's happening in the meetings, the action items, the takeaways, the tasks, all that other stuff, sometimes I do get behind because I don't always do a good job of creating buffer time between meetings, right? So like there are like Thursday this week, I have what do I have? I have sales lab, and then I have a 30-minute call. I have a 30-minute call, and then I've got a coaching call, and then I've got another coaching call, and then I have an office hours call, and then I have a lunch club call, and that is going to be over the course of 6 hours, and I have a 30-minute break between all those calls, right? So on those days, I don't put a whole bunch of pressure on myself around like notating everything that happens, because I can always go back to Sybil, watch the transcript, watch the call, get those action items out of there that way. So I have that system. It's just not as forward thinking as I would like it to be, because it's not
That's
that kind of AI.
That's what
That would be rad though.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I got to get to it.
All right, my friend. I do as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Well, that's it.
See you next week, sir.
I will check in before that, but yes, you will not see us before next Monday.
Absolutely. Thanks to Dylan. Thanks to Michelle for hanging out with us. You guys are awesome. Dylan, congrats again on the role. Let me know what you need. Happy to help. And Bill, if you need anything this week, man, I'm around, of course. And then next Monday, we'll come chat again.
That's right.
See what's up.
That's right. Sounds good to me. Same
Awesome,
to you.
Man.
Chat with you soon. Bye, y'all.
Cheers.